whether that be by targeting, which we have not had a person with power effectively say that this is morally wrong, of course. And now it seems they also want to annex the West Bank. What's happening in the West Bank, which has nothing to do with Gaza, is the individuals that live there are being traumatized by the IDF. And so if you're paying attention, it's very clear that they have become increasingly radical, and they are effectively, as they always do, using the American military to fulfill their foreign policy interests because they are a small nation. They don't have the bodies to be able to accomplish that. They need the might of the American military to accomplish their foreign Middle Eastern objectives. And so, yeah, it was very, I am on record saying this for the last 2 years. We're going to war with Iran one way or the other because what Bibi Netanyahu wants is what Bibi Netanyahu gets.
How is that the case? Because listen, I'm watching the Daily Show the other day, and I'm watching Jon Stewart, who obviously is a supporter. He's Jewish and he's a supporter of the Jewish community in Israel, of course. But he spoke out about how Netanyahu was saying the same thing recently that he said in 2018, that he said in 2015, that he said in 2011. And what's surprising to me is that there seems to be a community divided within the own Jewish community. You have some people who are about being isolationists, which is something we'll get into later, and don't necessarily support this. And then you got guys like conservative pundit Mark Levin, who I know that you know a thing or two about. You know I know him. I've known him for years. And he is fixated on this. He believes that America should be involved. He believes that Iran is evil and that they need to be wiped off the face of this earth. And essentially, the threats that they've made, not just to Israel, but death to America as well, justifies the kind of things that we have been seeing. Do you take that into consideration when you're giving your thoughts?
Absolutely, and I think one of the things that the public needs to recognize is this intentional conflation, and it's completely wrong, of Israel, the foreign nation, which is being led up by Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, and Jewish people. That would be an absolute nonsense if I sat here and I said, well, whatever happens in Nigeria, it means that if you critique the Nigerian government, that you're somehow against Black people in America. We would also, that's nonsense. But they have been very successful in this idea that if you critique what is happening in the Middle East and what actions are being led by Bibi Netanyahu's government, radical governments, then you're somehow anti-Semitic. So it shouldn't surprise you to see that many Jewish people have taken to the streets. Not only Jewish people, by the way, Israelis, because as we know, even in America, you can be an American and not support what the government is doing. I am not supporting right now the decisions that are being made by the Trump campaign as it pertains to Middle Eastern policy. But they have this agreement. You have Israelis taking to the streets, boycotting, protesting Bibi Netanyahu. And similarly, you have Jewish people who recognize that there has been this wrong conflation, as if all Jewish people agree with the nonstop campaign of bombing in the Middle East, which has essentially been in effect since 1948, since the creation of Israel as a nation. And so crazy. I'm not conflicted or confused about what's happening. I find it to be as disingenuous as attaching, well, if you critique Black Lives Matter as an organization, this means that you're critiquing all Black people. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that whatsoever. I'm critiquing the Israeli prime minister. I'm critiquing their actions, really their actions which have began since 1948. The more that I become educated about the topic, it has always been this despicable. It has always been a campaign of burning, of carpet bombing and theft, stealing lands. And when people notice what they're doing, they say, well, you can't say that because of anti-Semitism. That's ridiculous, okay? You know how I feel about this, especially as someone who's been called an Uncle Tom and a coon for critiquing things that were happening within the Black community. I am not going to respond to name calling. I'm going to respond to the facts. And the facts are what Bibi Netanyahu is doing.
I saw a recent episode, I forgot who you were talking to, forgive me for not knowing his name, but you were showing highlights of Dave Portnoy, for Barstool, and how he was going at one of the individuals that I think he employs, and he went ballistic because of a joke that was being aimed in his direction or what have you. And I don't remember the joke, so I apologize for that. But you highlighting his reaction because you were pointing out how he could joke about some things, but if you joke about anything at this particular moment in time, it's going to be labeled anti-Semitic. Is that something that you feel fervently about, that you feel adamant about in terms of you just can't say anything is such a lopsided thing? Because when I think about the Jewish community, of course, I'm looking at et cetera. And the retaliation on their part was predictable and in the eyes of a lot of people, understandable. That's where I come from with it. Where are you coming from with it when I use a Portnoy example or others as you allude to anti-Semitism, which is obviously a grave concern for the Jewish community at this particular moment in time?
First and foremost, I can think of nothing more anti-Semitic than 2 years of bombing the Palestinians who are a Semitic people. That's another thing. They just decided they're the only Semitic people, which is absolutely absurd and it's erroneous. But further to your point, there was this media effort, and we've all seen over the last 2 years, there's been this increasing slur of anti-Semitism everywhere. Like people who have been in the public space forever and have never been accused of being anti-Semites are now being accused of being anti-Semites, me being one of them. I worked for 2 Jewish organizations before I was suddenly being accused of being anti-Semitic. So sometimes on its face, you have to ask yourself a question. And again, I will use the example of BLM, where suddenly it seemed like everyone was being accused of racism to the point that it was becoming a parody. Like someone would braid their hair and they'd be like, cancel this girl because this is appropriation. When you start to see that increase and what people are actually trying to do is control speech, right? This guy said, I think it's okay if someone jokes at you and calls you Rabbi Dave Portnoy, you should be able to take a joke, right? Welcome to the internet, everyone's called different things. And he has a meltdown and asks him, Dave Portnoy says, how many Jews have to die before you stop joking? That's an emotional manipulation tactic, okay? Nobody dies from a joke, okay? Nobody dies if somebody tweets at Dave Portnoy, hey, you're Rabbi Dave Portnoy now, as they're critiquing you. And you only do that, you only start to come in on speech and to demand all these rules and these cancellations when you have something to hide, when you are wrong, okay? Because when you're winning on the basis of your ideas, when you're winning on the basis of the argument, you don't ask for more censorship. I want the debate. When I know I'm right about something, I'm not going censor the wrong guy. I'm like, platform the wrong guy, get me across from him so I can embarrass him. So we knew this was coming on the basis of this increase of smearing people as anti-Semites for asking rational questions. And so I'm not surprised that we arrived at this point.
Well, where I would push back on that, Candace, is that's you. You're highly intellectual, very, very articulate, very researched, exceptional at defending your points, etc. And so that could give you the, I don't want to say the motivation, but the ability to be calm and collective in articulating a point of view to refute something somebody else is throwing at you. But if you're a Dave Portnoy, just to use this example, and you're a Jewish individual who emphatically believes that there's anti-Semitism raving through this country, if not this world, at this particular moment in time, you can't understand why he would react. And I'm not saying he should have gone as far as he did, but can you understand where he's coming from when he's passionate about it? Because to me, it's coupled with a fear that the Jewish community is feeling at this particular moment in time because of what they were doing, in to use your words, because of the action of their own government in Israel.
I can't understand it, not even percent, okay? And nothing is more obnoxious than having somebody as successful, a multimillionaire who probably doesn't even touch his own door handles, pretending that he's just so terrified and he can't go outside. That's nonsense, okay? He is trying to hype up his victimhood because he does not have an argument to make. And that's what people do. They lean into victimhood when they cannot rebut an argument. It would have been very easy for him to calmly explain, this is the reason why this is wrong, and so died because of this joke. Someone fell over and died because someone tweeted Rabbi Dave Portnoy. But that's nonsense. So he went with screaming, and then in this weird slave owner vibe tells him, I own you, and I pay you and I own you, which is just, quite frankly, despicable.
Gotcha. You know what? I gotta keep in mind, Candace, when I'm talking to you, I'm gonna make sure I don't raise my voice.
Hey, one person.
Like
Hello, welcome in.
You got me wondering if I did the wrong thing by raising my voice talking sport, for crying out loud. Because that's a good. I'm like, let me look at myself. Let me check myself just a little bit more in the future. Because Candace is bringing up some very valid points. I got it. Let me move on to Tucker Carlson while I have you here, and I want to get into you a little bit later because I want to talk about some things involving you directly. But right now, I wanted to touch on Tucker Carlson, the former Fox News host, got into a fiery exchange on Tuesday, with Senator Ted Cruz over his support for President Trump and his posturing towards Israel. At least that's what Tucker Carlson claims it to be. I want to show you this clip right now with Tucker Carlson getting into it with Ted Cruz. Take a look at this, Candace.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population at all. No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay.
Motherfucker's retarded.
Yeah, how could you not know that? I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that
because if
relevant?
you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
I don't know.
They are Persians and
What percent?
predominantly Shia. Okay,
It's not even, you don't know anything about Iran. So
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who claims
anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump.
No,
You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe
we're
that...
carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on
Hey,
behalf
welcome
of
in.
Trump
Thanks for the thumbs up.
that we were
Appreciate it.
acting on...
Come hang out. Let's learn.
Israel's
Oh, two people. Hey, wait. Get here. Double tap that screen. Wait, I got some Pokemon.
We
Wait.
are
Hang on.
supporting Israel.
Hey, you're a senator. If
Get
you're
here.
saying the
I got a
United States
secret.
government is...
I got a secret to tell you. Hang on.
People are listening.
I'll tell you a
Candace,
secret. Hang out.
You saw that. What do you make about that face-off right there? Your thoughts.
Nothing. And the secret is everybody's game but me.
That's
That's the
I
secret.
greatly respect both of
Thanks
these
for being
men.
here, guys. I love you.
I very much
What's wrong
like
with
Ted
camera?
Cruz
God
as
damn
a
it.
person. I have had nothing but positive relations with him anytime that I've come across him. But in this clip, it
Hit that
really
subscribe,
embodies
guys.
everything that I
Alzheimer!
think the American people are so frustrated with, right? You have a person who
My favorite
is
subscriber.
keen to go to war with Iran, and he is suggesting that
Candace
it
out here
is,
killing
I guess,
people.
a form of trickery to ask
That's my
him
girl.
what
I
is the
love you,
population of
Candace.
Iran.
Get him. Get him,
You're gonna
Candace.
make a
Get them
vote
all.
that we should go to war with this nation on behalf of Israel, and it is a fact that Ted Cruz accepts a lot of money from AIPAC. So they lobby.
Dude, I love
you
Candace.
know,
She's fucking
the
awesome.
Israel PAC lobbies. He's one of the
Shitting on
senators that
everybody.
takes a lot of money from AIPAC every year. You would imagine that you've made some estimation in your mind that there is a imminent perceivable threat to the American people if you are in fact America first and concerned about Americans.
Hey, go get us some
And
Pokemon
B,
cards.
that if we go to war with them,
Come
we can win. And
on.
so in going through
God, I'm
that
down like
line of
fucking 10
questioning in
packs.
your head, well, can we win this? Like, is there a threat to the American people? You, of course, are going to assess the population size. Like, we're a nation of 300 million people. How big is our military? They're a nation of how many people? How big is their military? And he hasn't done that. He's admitting, like, hey, I actually don't
Yo,
even know the
Ted Cruz is
population size of
fucking
Iran.
idiot.
I do expect you to know the population size of Iran. It'd be a pretty basic thing if you're going to vote yes to going to war. And the reality is he can't answer that question because
Because he's fucking retarded.
like many people in Congress, left and right, they vote according to how they are lobbied. So if it's Big Pharma, they're voting for everyone to have to take the COVID vaccine because I
Yep.
took X amount of dollars from Big Pharma, right? Or I took X amount of dollars from this pharmaceutical company. If it's big war and you're dealing with the nonstop war, there's always been a threat in the Middle East, right? And we've lost all of those wars, right? The Taliban has our weaponry. There were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Generation 9/11 has grown up. We are demanding that all of you be able to answer some basic questions and to explain why a threat, which Tulsi Gabbard, the director of National
Generation
Intelligence,
9/11.
8
I've
weeks
never
ago,
heard that,
sat
but I
down
like
in a
that.
congressional
That's us.
hearing and testified
I was a
that
kid
there
when
was
9/11
no
happened.
nuclear threat. 8 weeks
I was
ago.
11 when 9/11
Now suddenly,
happened.
8 weeks later, there is one. Right when Israel
that.
decides that they want to bomb Iran. It's a nonsense. And I am tired of
Tired?
being
Go to bed, bro.
gaslit by our politicians to pretend that we don't understand and can't perceive the threats. The threat, actually, frankly, is Israel. Because we go to war and it only benefits them.
You know, you sound very, very disgusted. I'm
I am.
wondering where the word.
Bro,
I'm
who the
wondering
fuck is
where
not?
The word fear comes into play. I believe I read or doing my research, I was told that you feel you needed security. Obviously, some of the things that you say are incredibly polarizing, particularly in this day and age right now. Whether it should be or not is for somebody else to conclude. I'm just telling you what they're saying. When you take that into consideration right now, as you look at your life, you just was on maternity leave, you got 4 kids, you're happily married, etc. How comfortable is life for Candace Owens right now, or lack thereof, dare I say?
Well, I want to be honest. I have tremendous fear of God. And that's why you have to tell the truth, right? If you declare Christ's kingship and you truly are a Christian, then your number one fear is of God, because this is not it. We get 80 years in this life, and then we're in the next. And so when you see these people who pretend to be Christians and they look at what Israel is doing, they look at the nonstop campaign of starvation. You can look at the videos of them bombing children, the children crying, shooting children as they try to run for food, and you pretend to declare Christ's kingship, and yet what you're actually fearful of is saying that that's wrong because you don't want to be canceled, because you don't want to lose your job, because you don't want people to call you an anti-Semite. I question your sincerity is what I would say. I don't sit in the seat of judgment, but what I say to people is you are going to one day meet your maker. So you better start doing the right thing, which is to tell the truth unapologetically. And I want, in terms of my family,
Candace,
I want
these people
my
are fucked.
to inherit that for me. To be passionate for the truth, which is to be passionate for Christ, right? That is what Christ is. Christ is the truth. You have to follow Christ at all times. And I've made my position very clear on this. He was asserting that he was done with Israel, and then next thing you know, he was gone, and Israel was trying to control his legacy and to pretend that period of transition wasn't happening, and it was.
Before we get started, I want to give our condolences to you. I know you and Charlie were really close, so I can't imagine what this has been like for you, because when we saw what happened, it was very traumatic for us, and we only met him a couple of times.
Yeah, I probably spoke maybe 100 words to Charlie, but it felt like I lost a family member that day.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people felt that, which was really interesting. Like the impact of his assassination, I think, was not like anything we've ever seen. I actually met you guys through Charlie. You remember that?
Right.
An event together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Well, Charlie and I were doing something, and we had you guys speaking.
Exactly.
And
Washington. Yeah, in Washington D.C. Yes. Man, wow.
So it's been a time.
Where were you when that tragedy happened? At the time?
Well, I was here. I was upstairs prepping for my podcast show. We were just going to do a regular episode, and Savannah came downstairs and said, Charlie's been shot. It's just so crazy. I couldn't even comprehend what she was saying.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, we just immediately canceled the show and sent everybody home.
Exactly.
And,
we did the exact same thing. So from the moment I found out he had been shot, we went to try to find out if he's okay. And then when I saw the video, I couldn't function for like 3 days. Just went home.
Yeah. The majority of the world, except for Turning Point USA, I think felt that way, which is remarkable. I think everybody shut things down, didn't do things the next day, the day after, and there was something almost like spiritual about what happened, and the amount of emails that I've received to the exact same effect of how impacted people were, and some people who had never even heard of him, people that have never been to the United States, and it just something about that video and the way that he died. And we've obviously seen a lot of violence and a lot of crimes over the years, but that was something different.
Yeah. Right. Now, I want to get to talk to you about your show. Like, it's been a lot of people attacking you on your work about Charlie's assassination. It seems like they really misunderstand what your show is about. It's like, from my perspective, is you're not making any declarations about who killed him or what happened. It's like you're putting out things that you're following, like leads, and then you putting it out to the public to share with everybody what's going on and what information you have. Am I right about that?
Yeah, it has been very strange to see the immediate reaction that people had. Some people, I would not say the majority opinion, obviously, but the people in media were certainly offended at the prospect of people investigating what happened on that day, which to me signals that there was a foregone conclusion, and that foregone conclusion was Tyler Robinson did it and he acted alone. And you could just see that there was a lot of money that was backing this idea that to even investigate anything regarding what happened on September 10th was a sin greater than what happened on September 10th. It was unbelievable.
Right. And it looks like a lot of these attacks are coming from the right, which is shocking to me.
Yeah, it's like they've been trying to label you as a grifter. and just trying to discredit you as a grifter.
Yeah. To be honest, it has not been the right, but it has been the Zionists on the right.
Oh,
And
okay,
I
yeah,
think,
that's a huge distinction.
which is a huge distinction, yeah,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
I think the right has been infiltrated by the Never Trumpers, and sure, they call themselves the right, but they're not. They're just the pro-Israel.
Mhm.
They have to be on the left to support Israel, then they're on the left. You know, they were happy to try to assist Hillary Clinton in winning back in 2016 because they were so virulently anti-Trump. But now they love Trump, and
Mhm.
even though they wanted DeSantis, they love Trump. And so
Mhm.
we're just dealing with neocons, and there's nothing actually conservative about them. You know, they have some talking points. I'd like lower taxes, but then they are pro-war all the time, which obviously makes entirely no sense.
Yeah.
There has definitively been, you could see where the line is. If you support Israel, you do not support the investigation into who killed Charlie Kirk. I wonder why.
Right. It's almost like they're scared what you're going to find, whether it's going to be something, nefarious and turning point, or it's going to eventually lead to Israel. That's the gist I get from it. It's like they're scared digging that you're asking the question. That's like one of Charlie's biggest motto is like, keep asking questions. That's how you know we're still free. And it's like they're going away from what Charlie really wanted Turning Point to become.
Yeah, and to be clear, Charlie died allowing people to ask him questions,
Right.
to prod narratives, and they're trying to convince us that his legacy will only be protected if we all agree not to ask any questions about how he died, which doesn't make sense. And they, despite having tons of money and financing that sort of psychological operation, it has failed. It has failed because
Right.
people realize that what is obvious is they are not upholding any of the values that Charlie held dear, and free speech would be primary among them, the values that he held dear. And so it has been an interesting time, and I agree with you. Most people were not comforted by the fact that Bibi Netanyahu felt it necessary in the immediate aftermath to declare that he didn't kill Charlie Kirk,
That was evil.
and that it was very strange. I don't know if you felt the need to say that on your podcast. I didn't feel the need to come out and say that on my podcast.
Right.
It's not a normal thing to feel that you need to declare
Right.
immediately after somebody is shot and killed that you didn't kill them, unless you most certainly did.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So,
Like I was really upset when it happened because a few months before it happened, there was a man on the roof that tried to take out President Trump. And it's like, that's the first thing I would look at as the security. If I was security for Charlie, was to always keep an eye on the roof. It's like common sense. How does someone get up on the roof?
Yeah.
How do they allow something like that to happen?
Because if anybody's going to try to take someone's life, it's always going to be from a distance.
Right.
yeah, that's exactly right. And when we obviously were then subjected to Brian Harpole's very unconvincing interview with Sean Ryan, he shows one text message that's not even his, it's actually Dan Flood's.
Mhm.
And he says, look, we asked about roof access. And we got one response that said, yeah, I'll look into that for you. And that's all they did. And as I was investigating, I determined that they absolutely were only referring to that walkway that was behind Charlie. They never came early. They never did a walkthrough. The only thing they were concerned about, and they kept insisting to the UVU police, was that they wanted to make sure that Charlie's car had a clean exit. That was their primary concern. The university had advised against Charlie doing an event outside in that location because of the fact that they could not control traffic flow. So that makes sense. If we can't check your tickets and make sure you're here for this event and know who you are, you're a sitting duck. And despite this, Turning Point insisted that that's what Charlie wanted. He wanted to be outdoors, and so they even declined the security recommendations from both the police and UVU. So it
That's amazing.
definitely is very strange.
Yeah. I mean, when you work with Charlie, I mean, he didn't build that organization alone. Honestly, you had a big part in that. When y'all went to these Q&As, how effective was security? I mean, I would think y'all would have like president level security.
That event was nothing like anything I had ever seen.
Mhm.
They allege on the Turning Point side that Charlie had done some outdoor event. I think it was here actually in Tennessee, And he had then loved that sort of Coliseum setup, the amphitheater setup so much that he wanted that going forward. So that was something recently that they said that he was demanding. Obviously, no, of course, basic security protocol. Even if I said, I really want this,
Right.
the security team would say, well, you really can't have this because it's just not secure.
Right.
And everyone is telling you not to do this. And clearly, what Charlie wanted, Charlie didn't get at his organization. You could see that even in terms of how they were controlling who could come speak. So the idea that this one thing they allowed him to push through and say, oh no, he's got to have that Coliseum set up doesn't ring true to me. It seems like somebody else was pushing for that. Of course, the security could have said to him no, especially because he's contracting them and their reputations are on the line. There was no pushback at all. There was only push forward on the Turning Point USA side, the security apparatus. Typically, of course, there's traffic control. There are tickets. They know who's buying those tickets, and people are reserved. So that was just all completely violated. Anybody could have walked up and sat down in that event if they wanted to. Everything that I saw, even from Terrell being there, was the first time that's ever happened. He's the guy who notoriously filmed himself after Charlie got shot and said Charlie's dead within 2 minutes. And then right after that, rather than running toward this person that he's worked with for over a decade or calling 911, it's amazing none of them thought to call 911. He runs down to remove the cameras. And so one of my first questions was, why was Terrell there? I've done tons of events. Terrell doesn't go to these school events. And they said, well, we were trying something new that day. Like what? An assassination? Like,
Yeah,
I don't,
that's
what were
weird.
you trying
You
to
don't
do?
try things new in the middle of a Q&A. That is
And even stranger is that Terrell, they were trying something new that day, but don't forget they had scheduled Charlie to have an event just 10 days later at UVU. He also had an event later that week at Colorado. Terrell wasn't slated to be there. So they were not just trying something new. They were trying something new for just one day that required Terrell. There was no communication between Terrell and the events team for the events that were in the immediate future. There was no security planned for the event that Charlie had the very next day at Colorado. There was no communication. No. So it's almost like the security knew that that event was not going to take place.
You know what's crazy? Like when what happened to President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania? Conservatives really attacked the FBI. We really went after them. So that was an inside job. They're trying to Secret Service. Yeah. The incompetence that the females, what they were doing that day, it's like we really went after the FBI. The people that was in charge were protecting him, right? It's like when we go trying to go after the truth about Charlie Kirk, it's like people start labeling us like bad faith actors and conspiracy theorists. Why do you think the switch up? Why is he trying to label people on the right that's trying to really find out about Charlie? Why are they trying to paint us as like just grifters and conspiracy theorists?
Because the boss has a boss. Trump took $200 million from Miriam Adelson. Charlie stepped on Bibi Netanyahu's toes when he went head to him over Iran. Back in May, I believe, was when it was Operation Midnight Hammer, when we bombed Fort Al, and Bibi wanted a full front war at that time, and Charlie convinced the president that was not a good idea, and he stood up to the entire Zionist lobby who were in his ears. I think Bibi viewed him as problematic. They were very upset about Tucker's speech, and Charlie had said he was abandoning the Israel cause. And so I think what you're seeing is that Trump has a boss. And so much of what we see in DC is just an illusion. I think we've always been aware that there was a deep state. And I would say that the proliferation of the deep state was certainly after JFK was assassinated in 1960.